Alright, so I wanted to get this little side video put together for those asking about pulley size and belt part numbers and all that. I know the answer is not going to be the same for everybody. People are running different setups, different accessories, completely different than what I'm doing, but maybe someone's running what I'm running, which is no accessories, OEM water pump and tensioner with Alternator and a MercRacing Supercharger. So I finally got the collection back of pulleys. I got my high, my mid, and my low back. This was a 4-inch from Merc. Sold it really cheap. I think that he said something about it doesn't fit many setups. It's not common, so it was really cheap, like clearance or something like that. These are the ones that cost a little bit more because they got the grip tech on them. 2.8, 3.2. I sent out the 4 over to grip tech to add the grip on it, but something about they're in between anodizing setups and all that, so they said it would be cheaper and faster to make one from scratch. So I sent that one out and got theirs back. It's pretty much identical to these now, but 4-inch, 3.2 and 2.8. Low boost, medium and high. So I narrowed down 2 belts, and if you know how many belts I've tried, then yeah, it hasn't been fun, but I figured it's the smartest thing to do is to narrow it down to the least amount of parts possible, because then you just order the same stuff over and over and you don't have to change too many parts at the same time. The one thing I'm not happy about, and this is just, I don't know if you would call it a design flaw, sometimes when you piece together a setup in a tight space, there's just some things you just got to live with. Fuel pump and belt do have to come off for every belt change. So I'm not planning on changing belts too often. Hopefully run on that 4-inch and the 3.2, which share one belt. So I'll be okay, because all I got to do is get the tension off, slip the belt off of whatever, and just change the pulley. I wouldn't have to, touch the fuel system. The moment that I go over to kill mode here, which I don't think will be too often, which is good. It'll be the least used setup, 2.8 hopefully. Once I go over to this, then yeah, everything has to come off. A couple adjustments here. MercRacing Tensioner, this is adjustable all the way up to here for more tension. This pulley is adjustable and moved over to here for clearance. Whatever you got to do to get the right clearance, that's just what it is. We'll start with the 4-inch since it's on there and probably the most common one used. So this pulley I set low. Once you set it up high, you actually get closer and tighten up that gap, which you don't want. This is as far as way possible that you can get this. This here I try to keep low. The lower this is, then the more room for adjustment you have in case you see some stretch or something you want to tighten up. There's more than enough room to tighten this up through here. Loosen this bolt, lift this pulley or screw into it, and it'll lift it and you tighten it back up. Tensioner is somewhat where it should be, OEM style tensioner, OEM style alternator, OEM water pump. No AC, obviously, no power steering. This is just a basic pulley setup here. ATI, don't know the diameter off the top of my head, 5 point something. ATI street damper, by the way. So 4-inch pulley, you can run the 7PK 1720. They run their part numbers with this one, I believe, though. So you look at the K070677 HD if you want the fleet runner. I don't have the number for the standard belt, but everybody says these are stronger, they last longer, stretch less, so that's what I'm going to run. The lower this tensioner pulley sits, the more clearance you will have here. I've seen people start to crank this up on loose belts or big belts, incorrect size belts. They're cranked up all the way to the top. What happens is that this pulley moves in this direction and you start to bring that belt over. It starts to come over and it gets close to this. This pulley here likes to get close to the 4-inch if you move it to that top slot. I'll put it up there just so you guys can see anyways though. So to loosen this up, this is a lifesaver right here. Really expensive though, if you could find another brand or whatever, but something long, 14 millimeter, kind of has like a not offset, but you know, it goes through with a proper, you know, space there, so you have the room to actually grab onto the bolt, to the hex. I know some of these don't have that sleeve poking out, but this really helps. If not, you'd be flush. Pretend, you know, getting on it from here, you're not doing much, you're gonna slip off. But this thing easily goes over, grips the bolt, and helps a whole bunch. So we're on the tensioner now, just to show you. Sits flush and it has grip, and it's long enough to have leverage too, and it swivels. That's another thing that saves you too, because you got to get out the way of certain stuff. Yeah, the car's definitely moving. So tension off, you can slip the belt over and let it relax. That's it. Your tension should be gone, or at least enough for you to get stuff on and off. These are 14 millimeters. All right, for demonstration purposes only, now we have this pulley up high on the top setting, which is that one. As you can see, not the way to go. Messes everything up. The belt that was on there doesn't even fit, so I didn't even bother trying to get it on. It runs too close, so this has to run on the lower setting for your 4-inch with the 7PK 1720 or K070677 Fleet Runner, which is the HD part number. I'll try to find links for the belts and stuff. I think they were all over Amazon or wherever, but part numbers will pop them up on Google fairly quickly and easily. Yeah, so run this one down low on the 4-inch and you'll have more than enough tension left behind and clearance on both sides of the pulley, and a tight belt, which is the most important thing here. So we'll move on to the 3.2. Shout out to Grip Tech. I made this thing identical to the actual one that I sent them, which is pretty cool. Just so you guys could get a good look at what they actually do to it. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's like laser etching grip into the grooves. Really cool stuff. Glad I waited. It was worth it, because now all of them got it, so we won't have to worry about that. Avoiding belt slip at all costs. So we can go to the 3.2. So the 3.2 inch is on, pulley set to high, and we're tightening up the top here. I like to take tension off before screwing or unscrewing this guy. You don't want stuff to be sideways, tension pulling down on the pulley and doing all that stuff. So I like to loosen it and tighten it. You check your tensioner, you're in the ballpark. So now you're probably asking, wait a minute, I thought you said don't leave the pulley high. Well, that is correct. On the 4-inch, you want this pulley low. On the 3.2 inch, since you're leaving the same belt, you're creating slack. The belt turns into a bigger belt for the 3.2. Pulley got smaller, belt gets bigger. So you want to create more tension now to tighten it back up. So I brought this pulley up high. Again, great clearance here, great clearance here, great clearance here. That's how the best I could run, I feel like. And it's tight. If it's needed to, we have more than enough space for adjustment. Got that much more to crank it up if we have to. Once the pulleys get smaller, you want to pay attention to how much this belt wraps around it, is what I've seen. I've noticed on the best gripping setups on V8s and stuff like that. They put a lot of belt around the pulley, as much belt as possible. When you go smaller, you pretty much lose that, or you lose more of it. The bigger the pulley, the more the belt's going to wrap around, the more grip. But the smaller you go, you lose that surface, that contact. So by bringing this pulley up, you kind of like wrap this belt up over the slightest bit, and you gain some grip, I feel like. Smallest pulley I'm going to run. Once again, leaving this pulley up high. Smaller belt. Where's the other number? Wrapped around somewhere, but you can find it there too. K070673HD Flea Runner. That is the smaller size belt. Also a 7 PK1708. So this is the small pulley, small belt. So with the smaller belt, I lose some space here on the tension, but I have a bunch left, so we're good there. OEM tensioner marks are in the ballpark. I gotta read up and see exactly where they want that marking. I'm not sure. I always just run it right there because it feels good. But other than that, that's as much as I can get the belt to wrap around the pulley on the 2.8. Not mad at that. I've seen worse. Plenty of tension if I have to crank it up more. This will actually move away from this pulley if I need to bring it up. There's so much room here that I'm not even worried. You'll never adjust this more to get that in the danger zone, so not worried there. Plenty of clearance there. And this pulley is to be ran with this belt. They're a combination, that's it. So yeah, I'm okay with that. I should be running this setup the least out of all three, so I'm not even mad at it. This would require me to remove pump and pump pulley and all that mess. So whenever that happens, I'll try to leave it on there for as much as possible. If not, the other ones will work out. Battery's about to die on the Ray-Bans. I'll upload this tonight. Hopefully it helps somebody else out if you're running a setup like this. If not, I'll post part numbers to the pulleys and belts if you guys want to try. Later.